Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Amia. Amazon EC2 is one of the core AWS services. In this episode, we're going to look at the key concept of EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. It's one of the most important building blocks of AWS services. It's a web service that provides scalable and secure compute capacity in the cloud. You can provision virtual servers through a simple web interface and reach global audience in minutes. It gives you total control over computing resources. EC2 lets you easily create, scale, and manage your virtual servers in the cloud. Traditionally, when you need compute capacity, you need to either buy physical servers or enter into a fixed-term contract with data centers. It takes a long time to set up the resources. For example, if you need 100 servers, it can take several weeks or months to set them up. These physical servers have fixed hardware capacity, such as CPU power, GPU, memory, and storage size. Later on, when you decide that the capacity is no longer a good fit, it's very hard to change them. In contrast, EC2 lets you create and manage scalable and resizable compute capacity in the cloud. You have options to scale in or out, up or down the capacity. Scale in or out means removing or adding new instances. Scale up or down means changing instance types. For example, you can scale up by adding new EC2 instances. Alternatively, you can scale up by changing instance types with higher CPU or memory. We will go through different instance types shortly. EC2 offers you various flexible purchase options. You only pay for what you actually consume. You can also leverage idle AWS resources or reserve capacity for a significant discount. We will talk about the purchase options in a minute. You can access and manage your EC2 instances via AWS Console, SDK, CLI, and API. You have total control over your EC2 instances. You can decide the time for your EC2 instances to run and stop. You can add or remove instances, switch to different compute types anytime. Amazon EC2 offers free tier in the first 12 months. You will get 750 free hours per month for T2 micro or T3 micro instances. Amazon EC2 service has a wide spectrum of instance types, optimized for different use cases. These instance types comprise different combinations of CPU, GPU, memory, storage, and network capacity, which give you the flexibility to choose the right mix of resources. AWS introduces new generations and instance types all the time. For example, we have current generation instance types like T2, T3, C4, and C5, and previous generation like T1 and M1. AWS uses different letters for different instance types, and uses numbers for different generation types. You might have heard of instances like T2 micro, T3 micro instances. T family is a general-purpose EC2 family. T3 instances are a newer generation than T2 instances. While AWS continues to support the previous generation, for the best performance, it's recommended to use current generation instances. Each instance type has multiple sizes. For example, in the T3 family, we have instances from as little as T3 Nano with 2 vCPUs and half GB memory, to a large instance like 2x large with 8 vCPUs and 32 GB memory. You can classify these EC2 instance types into the following categories. General-purpose instances provide balanced compute, memory, storage, and networking resources, and can be used for a variety of diverse workloads. These instances are ideal for applications that use resources in equal proportions, such as web servers, development and testing servers, code repositories, and build servers. General-purpose instances include A1, T2, T3, M4, and M5 instance types. Compute-optimized instances are ideal for compute-intensive applications that benefit from high-performance processors, such as batch processing, media transcoding, high-performance computing, HPC, scientific modeling, dedicated gaming servers, machine learning inference. Compute-optimized instances include C4 and C5 instance types. Memory-optimized instances are designed to deliver fast performance for processing large datasets in memory, such as in-memory databases, in-memory caching, unstructured data processing, real-time big data analytics, Hadoop Spark clusters, SAP HANA. Memory-optimized instances include R4, R5, and X1 instance types. Accelerated computing instances use hardware accelerators or coprocessors, such as GPUs and field programmable gate arrays, FPGAs, to perform functions, such as high-precision floating-point number calculations, graphics processing, data pattern matching, deep learning training algorithms, scientific analysis and simulations, such as molecular design, drug optimization, genomic analysis, fluid dynamic simulation, and 3D rendering. Accelerated computing instances include P3, P2, G4, G3, and F1 instance types. Storage-optimized instances are designed for workloads that require high-throughput sequential read and write to very large datasets on local storage. They are optimized to deliver tens of thousands of low-latency, random IOPS to applications, such as NoSQL databases like Cassandra, MongoDB, Redis, large transactional databases, MapReduce, Elasticsearch, and Apache Kafka. Storage-optimized instances include I3, H1, and D2 instance types. Amazon EC2 offers a few purchasing options. They update pricing models from time to time. First, we have on-demand instances, which is the most flexible purchasing option. You pay a fixed hourly rate for EC2 instances only in the running state. You can terminate them at any time. You only pay for what you use, without a long-term commitment. Next, we have reserved instances. EC2 allows you to leverage reserved instances for predictable workloads to get significant discounts. For example, if you have a production application running 24/7 for 1 year or longer, you can reserve EC2 capacity with a long-term commitment and get a significant discount. You will be charged for the reserved capacity regardless of whether you have instances running or not. Next, we have scheduled reserved instances. If your workload recurs on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis in a fixed time window, you can consider scheduled reserved instances. Similar to reserved instances, you also need a long-term commitment to get discounts. You will be charged for the reserved duration regardless of whether you have instances running or not. Scheduled reserved instances offer less discount than reserved instances. Next, we have on-demand capacity reservations. You may also reserve capacity for on-demand instances, in a specified availability zone for any duration, to have guaranteed capacity when you need it, without a long-term commitment. You will pay the same rate as on-demand instances. You will be charged for the reserved duration regardless of whether you have instances running or not. A spot instance is an unused EC2 instance that is available for much less price than the on-demand instance. The hourly price for a spot instance is called a spot price. AWS often prepares spare servers in their data centers for demand increase or any unexpected surge. When these extra EC2 instances are not used, they become spot capacity. The spot price changes based on long-term supply and demand for AWS. You can leverage the spot price for a steep discount. You need to bid on spot prices. Spot prices fluctuate like the stock market. Because your spot instance runs only when your bidding is higher than the market price, your workloads on the spot instance could be interrupted very often. From 2017, you no longer need to bid on spot instances. The spot prices change much less frequently, which means there is much less interruption on your workloads. Finally, we have dedicated hosts and dedicated instances. Dedicated hosts are physical servers with EC2 capacity dedicated to you only. You have visibility on sockets, cores, and host ID. You have control over how instances are placed on a physical server. Dedicated hosts allow you to use your existing per-socket, per-core software licenses, such as Windows Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle Database. Dedicated instances are instances physically isolated at the account level. However, you might share hardware with other instances from the same AWS account. Now let's look at details of these purchase options. On-demand instances are the most flexible way to get started with EC2 service. There is no long-term commitment. You pay as you go at a fixed rate. You have full control over its life cycle. You can decide when to launch, stop, hibernate, start, reboot, or terminate EC2 instances. It is recommended to use on-demand instances for applications with short-term, irregular, spiky, or unpredictable workloads that cannot be interrupted. For example, if you are running a pilot project with unknown traffic, or if you are developing and testing your new applications, on-demand instances are your first choice. With reserved instances, you can reserve capacity and save up to 75% comparing to on-demand instances. You commit to a consistent usage and pay for the capacity you have reserved, even when there is no EC2 instance running. You can purchase a reserved instance for a 1-year or 3-year commitment. 1 year means you reserve capacity for 24 hours a day times 365 days. The longer you commit, the greater discount you get. You have different payment options with different discount rates. You can pay all upfront, partial upfront, or no upfront. In general, you get more discount if you make a higher upfront payment. If you no longer need the reserved instances within the committed term, you can exchange or sell them in the AWS marketplace. Reserved instances are recommended for applications in a steady state, or with predictable workloads that are expected to run continuously for 1 year or longer. These applications can be your production workloads of high-demand applications. When you purchase a reserved instance, you can choose a regional scope or zonal scope. Regional instances are instances reserved for a region. Zonal instances are ones reserved in a specified availability zone. With regional instances, you can specify a region. The discount applies to any availability zone in this region. A regional reserved instance does not provide a capacity reservation. You have instance size flexibility. The discount applies to instance usage within the instance family regardless of sizes. With zonal instances, you specify an availability zone. The discount applies to this AZ. You have a capacity reservation with the extra confidence of capacity. There is no instance of size flexibility. The discount applies to instance usage for specified instance type and size only. If your computing requirement has changed, you may be able to modify or exchange your reserved instance, depending on the offering class. Standard reserved instances give you the highest discount rate. You can only modify some attributes of your instances such as AZs, instance size within the same instance family, scope. You can't change attributes like instance family or type. When you no longer need the standard reserved instances, you can sell them in the AWS marketplace. Convertible reserved instances give you a lower discount rate. You can modify or exchange your instances such as AZ, instance family, type and size, platform, tenancy, and scope. However, you can't sell convertible reserved instances in the AWS marketplace. With scheduled reserved instances, you can buy capacity recur on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis with a specified duration. You get a much less discount rate than normal reserved instances. You need to pay for the reserved capacity in the specified duration even when there is no instance running. You must commit a 1-year fixed term with a minimum of 1,200 hours. At the moment, scheduled reserved instances only support certain instance types and regions. It is recommended for applications do not run continuously but on a regular schedule. For example, you have a payroll application runs only for 5 hours once a month, or if you have a business application only runs during business hours, you can leverage scheduled reserved instances. AWS allows you to reserve capacity for on-demand EC2 instances in a specified availability zone without any long-term commitment. With reserved capacity, you have an extra guarantee to access EC2 instances when you need them at any time. It gives you the ability to manage capacity reservations and discounts independently. There is no upfront payment or additional charge for the on-demand capacity reservation. However, when the capacity reservation is active, you will be charged even there is no instance running. It is recommended for applications with unpredictable workloads but guaranteed capacity. As a cloud provider, AWS often prepares more servers in the data centers for sudden demand increase or unexpected surge. When these EC2 instances are standing by, they become available as spot instances. You can request these spot instances at great discounts. The hourly price for spot instance is called spot price. Spot prices are set by Amazon EC2. However, they are gradually adjusted based on long-term supply and demand on AWS. You may set a maximum price you're willing to pay for the spot instance. Your instance will continue to run if the spot price is less than the max price. Your instance will stop if the spot price exceeds the max price, and resume if the spot price drops below the max price again. Your default max price is the same as on-demand price. This makes sense, because you don't want to pay higher than the on-demand price. Previously, you need to bid on spot prices. Your spot instance runs only when your bidding is higher than the market price. Because spot prices fluctuate like the stock market, your workloads on the spot instance can be interrupted very often. From 2017, you no longer need to bid on spot instances. The spot prices change much less frequently, which means there is much less interruption on your workloads. Spot blocks are spot instances with defined duration, designed not to be interrupted, and will continuously run for the specified duration. In rare situations, spot blocks may be interrupted due to Amazon EC2 capacity needs. You can also request a collection of spot instances and on-demand instances to meet target capacity. This is called a spot fleet. You may specify a different allocation strategy for your spot instances and on-demand instances. The spot fleet will try to maintain the capacity when spot instances are interrupted. It is recommended to use spot instances for workloads with a flexible time window and applications which can be interrupted, and can leverage off-peak hours for significant savings. For example, you can use spot instances for background jobs or batch jobs, non-mission critical data analysis, or machine learning training jobs. When your spot instances are interrupted in the first hour, if they're stopped by you, you need to pay for the time consumed. If they're interrupted by AWS, there won't be any charge. When spot instances are interrupted after the first hour, if they're stopped by you, you'll be charged. If they're interrupted by AWS, you'll pay for the total time consumed, but no charge for partial hours. If AWS has interrupted any spot instances in the spot block, there will be no charge at all, because you've specified duration for the spot block not to be interrupted. After your spot instance is being interrupted, whether it is stopped or hibernated, if EBS volumes for your EC2 are preserved, you only need to pay for the EBS volumes. You don't need to pay for spot instances during the interruption. We know an EC2 instance is a virtual server or VM in the cloud. Amazon EC2 service offers multi-tenant virtualization and single-tenant virtualization. By default, EC2 instances are multi-tenant, which means your VM may share the same physical server with other AWS accounts. Sometimes you don't want to share the hardware with other customers for security, reliability reasons, or you want more control over hardware. AWS offers single-tenant instances, which are dedicated hosts or dedicated instances. Both dedicated hosts and dedicated instances can launch EC2 instances onto physical servers that are dedicated to you. Both can provide physical isolation. Dedicated hosts are physical servers with EC2 capacity dedicated only to you. Dedicated instances are instances physically isolated at the account level. However, you might share hardware with other instances from the same AWS account. Some organizations have compliance and regulatory requirement that applications must not run on multi-tenant servers for privacy and security reasons. Dedicated servers can help you meet the requirement. Some software licenses don't support multi-tenant servers. You might have existing software licenses that are bound to VMs, sockets, or physical cores. Dedicated servers help you continue to use these licenses and save money. Amazon EC2 Dedicated Host is also integrated with AWS License Manager, a service that helps you manage your software licenses, including Microsoft Windows Server and Microsoft SQL Server licenses. You have both on-demand and reservation purchasing options for dedicated hosts and dedicated instances. However, the pricing is different from multi-tenant instances. For example, you need to pay a dedicated per region per hour fee for dedicated instance. The on-demand hourly rates are also more expensive than normal on-demand instances. Both dedicated instances and dedicated hosts can launch EC2 instances onto physical servers that are dedicated to you. There are no performance, security, or physical differences between dedicated instances and dedicated hosts. However, there are some differences between them. With dedicated hosts, you have visibility on sockets, cores, and host ID. You have control over how instances are placed on a physical server. You have on-demand dedicated hosts, and dedicated host reservations for significant discounts. Dedicated hosts allow you to use your existing per socket, per core, or per VM software licenses, including Windows Server, Microsoft SQL Server, SUSE, and Linux Enterprise Server. In contrast, dedicated instances do not have visibility on sockets, cores, and host ID. You cannot control how EC2 instances are deployed on a physical host. You have on-demand, reserved, and spot instance purchasing options. Dedicated instances don't support bring your own licenses. In this episode, we've briefly talked about Amazon EC2 Instances Types and focused on various purchasing options. Amazon EC2 offers a wide range of instance types. There are 5 categories of instance types at a high level. General-purpose EC2 instances suit applications require balanced resources. Compute-optimized EC2 instances suit applications rely on CPU power to perform heavy computation, such as machine learning inference, high concurrent applications. Memory-optimized EC2 instances suit in-memory data processing applications. Accelerated computing EC2 instances suit applications require hardware acceleration such as GPU, FPGA, deep learning training, scientific computation are a good fit for accelerated computing. Storage-optimized EC2 instances suit applications high throughput, random disk IOPS operation, applications like Hadoop MapReduce, NoSQL databases, distributed file system are a good fit. Amazon EC2 gives you various purchasing options. On-demand instances are the most flexible option. You pay a fixed rate as you go without a long-term commitment. Reserved instances give you significant discounts and require 1-year or 3-year fixed-term commitment. Regional instances and zonal instances give you different levels of flexibility on the capacity reservation. Offering classes, such as standard and convertible reserved instances, have different discount rates and flexibilities to modify or exchange instance attributes like instance types, sizes. Scheduled reserved instances give you the flexibility to reserve instances for a recurring duration that is on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. It requires 1-year fixed-term commitment and gives you less discounts. With on-demand instances, you have the option to reserve capacity without long-term commitment and have no additional charge or discount. However, it gives you an additional capacity guarantee. You can also leverage spot instances for steep discounts. You can define a spot block, which is a running duration for your spot instances to minimize interruption. You can also set a collection of both spot instances and on-demand instances as a spot fleet to ensure instances continue to run even when spot instances are interrupted. In addition to multi-tenancy virtualization, AWS also offers you dedicated hosts and dedicated instances to isolate instances physically to suit compliance or software licensing requirements. Both dedicated hosts and dedicated instances provide physical isolation. There is no performance, security, or physical difference between them. However, dedicated hosts give you extra control and visibility on hardware, and support bring your own licenses. Okay, that's all for Amazon EC2. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode. Hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. If you liked the video, please help us and hit the like button. If you want to watch more tutorials, please subscribe to the Cloudemy TV channel. Make sure to turn on the notification and stay tuned. At Cloudemy, we're passionate about cloud and AI technology. Please share your feedback and thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to watch. Happy watching and happy learning.